Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. Hopefully everyone is doing well. I'm going to give everyone just a few minutes to come into the room and just let me know when y'all are in a room. Let me know that you can also hear me okay. But happy New Year to everyone, and hopefully everyone is doing well. And we're officially 5 days into 2021. This is the first Tuesday of the new year. So happy new year for some of you that may have not saw my most recent video, which was yesterday. I had a really great interview with Devin from Felons with Firearms. We did an interview yesterday just talking about after how kind of going through that whole process of being a felon when he was younger and going through the prison system, how he was able to basically get his rights restored, his gun rights restored. And so we had that conversation. If you've not seen that, make sure you check that video out. And hey, that guy from Texas, 2021 is going to be so lit and interesting. We'll see what happens. I was just talking to a friend today, and I was saying that hopefully, I just hope a lot of people learned a lot of lessons coming out of 2020, because it was just so much messaging, from politics to entertainers to the COVID crisis, to all these other things. I mean, 2020 was just 2020 clarity. So hopefully, I know I am, but hopefully other people are coming in with a new mindset and just like, for example, I'll talk about me. So I don't know if y'all have been impacted in these ways, but for one, even though I think in a lot of ways this was absolutely a pandemic and a heist and the biggest wealth transfer of our time. And I think very similarly to what we saw in Afghanistan, what we saw from 9/11, I think like a lot of the truth of what we just saw, I don't think some of these things are going to be really shown to us in that way until much later. And so 2020, I have even more of a distrust for the government in general, and just a new understanding of kind of like how the world works around us, and all of these other things. And so because of that, some things I wanted to just become more prepared in, more self-sufficient, learning new skills, because, these people can't be trusted. I tweeted something today. If you're not following me on Twitter, make sure you go ahead and follow me. I am RhondaMary on Twitter, my new Twitter, because y'all know my last one got banned. But I tweeted something today about, like, honestly, at this point where I'm at with it, it's like, if you allow the government to make you lock down your business and now your business is failing because of that, like, you made your choice. You made your choice. I mean, that's just what it is. And people are going to have to stand by the choices that they've made. And we have to remember that there's more of us than them. These people work for us on our behalf, not the other way around. We're going to talk about that tonight with the Fraud Squad. Okay, that's a play on the squad. not Nancy Pelosi, Ayanna Presley, Ilhan Omar, AOC. Recently people getting upset with them and kind of seeing it even more so for what it is. And I think you have a lot of people eyes just being open to a lot of things. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. But before we get started, let me make sure that I do go ahead and shout out my patrons. Thank you so much to everyone that supports my content. Special shout out to my VIP patrons, Michael, Ray, and Daniel. Thank you all so much. If you would like to become a member of my Patreon, just click my link below in the comment section. And hello to everybody coming in the room. O'Shea Lennox, Edward Ivy, and Bruce. Hopefully y'all are having a good and happy 2021. All right, so one thing I want to mention, because I was kind of talking about the coronavirus thing and people kind of being in a heightened sense of sensitivity now. And so one thing that I noticed, this was maybe like a day or two ago, I saw that the Shade Room, which many of y'all will know what the Shade Room is, but if you don't, it's like the top urban media for like Instagram. And I think it may be the top overall. Maybe it competes with World Star Hip Hop, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, they they posted this picture of Gucci Mane, which is a rapper, and his wife, Keisha Kayor. And she was basically saying how he had gifted her $1 million push gift. And I guess a push gift is all the new rave that the kids are doing these days, which is like, it's probably not. I don't know. It probably has some traditional roots. I really don't know. But anyway, your husband or the person you're having this child with, gifts you after you basically have their child. So I've noticed that a lot of people were in the comments highly upset, talking about how materialistic that a lot of celebrities are, talking about how they're tone deaf, how during the pandemic, how, just they're flaunting their wealth and all these other things. And it hasn't just been with them. I've also seen this with a lot of the rappers and celebrities and different people that got their gifts during Christmas time. And what I'm seeing is a lot of like pushback and unhappiness about these people sharing their gifts in their moments. And I kind of think it's odd for a couple of reasons, right? The first one being that I've been telling people for the longest, even have a shirt, Entertainers Are Not Leaders, if you would like to purchase one of those. It's also available in my link below. But this idea that, yes, people are people. However, different lifestyles, different incomes, different tax brackets, different circles gives people a different level of access to different things. And also it changes it can change or skew or make different their perceptions of life and the things going around them. And now all of a sudden, people want to feel some type of way. First of all, I've been trying to tell people that you're not as aligned to your favorite celebrity as you may think you are. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, this whole like they're tone deaf, people are struggling. People are struggling every day. People have been struggling since the beginning of time. People have been struggling since the end of time. And now that I guess people feel like, well, it's them and maybe not somebody across the train tracks, maybe not somebody across the world or the sea or whatever the case may be. People want to cast their burdens onto other people. And so the truth is that people are going to always struggle. And no, I don't believe that people should, in no aspect of the word, people should have to cater their livelihood and what they have going on to you. This has been one of my main problems with like cancel culture. And it's like, oh, if I've experienced this, how dare you not feel the same exact way? Because I've been through this, so you should have. And if this is the popular narrative, then you should be on the same team as me. And so I think that in a lot of ways, COVID is kind of bringing some of these things to light. And unfortunately, I don't know if unfortunately is the right word to use, but I think going into 2021, it's going to tie right along with this pandemic, because you're going to start to see an even bigger shift between your lower income and your higher income. A bigger shift between your middle income and your higher income. Okay. Some of the wealthiest people, and this goes way beyond the shade room, because y'all know they ain't even close to the wealthiest people. Y'all know some of the key players that we're talking about. But these people's wealth has increased at like ridiculous rates. And so if people aren't ready to accept this, you just aren't even ready to accept what we just really saw transpire in 2020. You have people sitting here talking about $600 checks. It's almost like an alternate universe, because in the grand scheme of things, $600 isn't a lot of money. And I know everybody knows that. And I know if you're out of a job or your situation is different, $600 may be exactly what you need or whatever the case may be. But this position that we've allowed politicians to move themselves into as if they are God, making this decision that you basically can't eat, you can't feed your family, you don't even have the wherewithal to make the own decision for you and your family. I'm going to make it for you, and then I'm going to dangle $600 over your head like a carrot and do this. Oh, well, $600. Oh, maybe $2,000. Oh, maybe $1,200. I know we're not really feeling that. We kind of back to the $600. I'm going to go ahead and sign it, but not really sign it, but I'm going to redline some stuff. And then we might still do the $2,000 if we remember to even think about it in the next 45 days. That's really what happened. That's really what we just saw here. And I don't think for some people it's really hit them yet. This we haven't seen the worst of the worst yet, as far as the economy, inflation, and what's to come. And so for the people that's not thinking about that, not being forward thinking, not thinking about your next move, not thinking about what's actually essential, okay? Actually essential. Y'all see everything is moving towards robotics, STEM, engineering. I was just talking to my friend, not only my friend and my sister, right, about their kids learning like Spanish, Mandarin. Okay, it's gonna accept. This may upset some of y'all because y'all don't want to accept some of the things that are coming down the line. So A lot of this sucks, but one of the best things about being aware of some of the things that's going on is trying to adjust to mitigate some of that as best as possible. So, hey to everybody coming into the room. Hey, Little Rock. Hey, Theta. Thank you. Happy New Year. Black Introvert said he thought I counseled. No, not tonight. I am like kind of babysitting as well. So, got started a little late, but that's about it. Hey, Kendra. Hey, Southeast Dusty. Boss Hog said that money disappeared like the Thanos snap. So, you don't know. It's just a lot. But anyway, so let's talk about a couple of things. We kind of just shoot in the breeze tonight. Probably won't be one of the longer lives, but let's start with the fact that Kamala Harris has recently been accused of plagiarism, and Twitter is going haywire. This kind of is right on the heels of the whole Kwanzaa thing that I didn't talk about. I didn't think that was, that big of a deal. And neither do I even really think this is a big deal. But I will tell you what I do think about it. So this is according to New York Post. Kamala Harris appears to repeatedly plagiarize MLK anecdote. A story Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, Kamala, I need to remember that. I always try to give her the black girl pronunciation instead of the Indian lady, pronunciation, which is her actual name, okay? A story Vice President-elect Kamala Harris told in a month-old magazine interview about her childhood has resurfaced after readers noticed parallels to a story told by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1965. Speaking to Elle magazine for its October cover story, Harris detailed a time when she became separated from her parents at a civil rights march in Oakland, California. At the point in her story when Harris' parents found their lost daughter, the account begins to sound similar to a tale told by the great civil rights leader. My mother tells a story about how I'm fussing, and she's like, baby, what do you want? What do you need? And I just looked at her and said, freedom, Harris told the magazine. Harris told the same story in the preface of her 2010 book, Smart on Crime, writing how her mother used to laugh while telling others about the moment. She also referenced it in her 2019 book, The Truth We Hold, An American Journey. The interview, while months old, resurfaced on Twitter this week when multiple users noticed the uncanny similarities the story had to one told by Martin Luther King in 1965. Dang, MLK was out here interviewing with the Playboy. Gone. I ain't know all that. I don't know. It might have been on the story he can get at the time, but ooh. In a piece, the civil rights icon recalled a moment he witnessed between a young black girl and a white police officer. I will never forget a moment in Birmingham when a white policeman accosted a little Negro girl, 7 or 8 years old, who was walking in a demonstration with her mother. Martin Luther King told the magazine. What do you want? The policeman asked her gruffly, and the little girl looked at him straight in the eye and answered, feed 'em, he continued. So, people are having a laugh at this on Twitter. It's kind of been trending. What I would say about this is obviously dealing with politics. We've seen plagiarism. We've seen it from Joe Biden to Melania to several people. I don't think that's so far-fetched or crazy that this would happen. What I think is crazier is this continued need of lacking or feeling of lack to prove this this alliance, right? Or with Blackness or the civil rights struggle in particular. So first of all, it's more hard for me to believe. I don't think impossible. I don't think impossible, but it's more hard for me to believe that this Indian mother, and at this time, I believe her Jamaican father had left, was as aligned with the Negro civil rights movement as projected. And Kamala continues to go over and beyond with, we've seen, the hot sauce picture, we've seen the Wakanda pose, we've seen my favorite rapper was Tupac. We've seen I used to smoke marijuana, all of these other things to align herself with hip hop culture, in some forms of Black culture, the civil rights thing, and all of this. So first of all, the interesting part that I find about this is that the timing of it is perfectly aligned with this super unending social justice, overly everything. I have to constantly remind you who I am. I have to constantly prove who I am. I have to constantly look for accolades and to show you I'm down with the people, right? Particularly when, let's just be real, you have this fair-skinned woman who is able to use her identity and pick and choose or pull and choose when she wants to identify with what. You're looking at me, I don't have the opportunity to do so, and most Black women do not. And so when things like this happen, she's going to continue to be called out for it, even constantly bringing up Tupac, which in the most recent interview with Angela Rye immediately, because Angela Rye asked her, like, who's your favorite rapper alive? And the first thing she says is Tupac, and Angela Rye is like, Tupac is not alive. And I'm thinking this constant, even removing I'm trying to align with particularly Black people, even I'm trying to be down. I think Kamala Harris is a little younger than like my mom, but I have aunts and stuff around her age. And like, are we that sensitive? Are we in a culture where it's just like, dude, I don't know. I don't listen to hip hop. It's just not my thing. Or maybe I listen to like Kool and the Gang. I don't know. Wasn't that like a hip hop, a hip, hip? It may have been more of her time. Like, let's just be honest. So I don't know what the problem is with people just being authentically themselves, but I just feel like with social media, with these halfway movements that are really being propped up by corporations and people to sell you things and all this other stuff, we're just constantly bombarded over the head with whether it's politicians or celebrities, entertainers that are trying to prop themselves up to be this image of who they think we want or need them to be. And it's like, dang, just be yourself. So she's going to continue to get called out. I think it's more so about that. Some people kind of broke the whole like Kwanzaa thing down with like I'm thinking about, even with the Kwanzaa thing, I grew up in a majority Black area, community, school, and the number of people I knew celebrating Kwanzaa was very small. And so if she continues to do this, specifically because of how she moved, uh, like going up into the election and during her initial campaign before Joe Biden picked her as her VP, and people saw all these other things that she was trying to do, people are going to have something to say. That's just how social media works. That's just how it is. And so, I'm already kind of watching her, and I really see her through like this Hillary Clinton filter, which I don't know if people have also felt this with Hillary Clinton as well, but it's a very like polished, like, I am presenting to you, this is what I want you to see me as, this is the image that I fully want to portray, and I want to be fully in control of what you're gathering from me. I kind of get that same vibe. I kind of get that same vibe from Kamala Harris, and I think a lot of people, Kamala. Thank you, Silver Wolf. Said best of wishes in 2021. XOXO. Thank you so much. God Tier Gaming said, I never met no one who actually celebrates Kwanzaa. I thought it was just a fake holiday made up to pander to folks. I mean, I've met a couple people. I've actually met a couple people that have celebrated it, but it's like small numbers. Megan says she is trying to align with fringe groups, though. I've heard people say Pac is still alive. Yeah, maybe she knows something we don't know. Maybe that could be it. Edward said Kamala Harris is not being her authentic self. And that's what I feel too, right? That's what I feel. I've never met her, but she does come off kind of very robotic and calculated. I think that's the wording I was looking for, and just being very like, nitpicking that image. And it doesn't seem to be working. Not to the extent, because I don't think she would get this pushback in this microscope as much as she is, if that was the case. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully as time goes on and she kind of, chills out a little bit maybe, and doesn't feel like she has to, like, she's no longer campaigning, you know what I mean? Because I actually, it's two things that I saw of her, and I was like, this is better. Like, this is like more of what I've expected of her. I think it was a speech that she did. It may have been at the DNC convention or something like that. It was a speech that she did, in a way like she spoke and things like that. It just seemed more natural and real. And I think there was also an interview. I can't remember what the interview was off the top of my head, but she just seemed way more relaxed in herself. And I was kind of just getting it. So maybe this is more of like the real her, which seems like it would be likable. But we also have to remember DNC. These are the same people that put on freaking dashikis and stuff to pander to people. Oh, Shay Lennox, get me right, man. Get me right. Shay Lennox said, Kool and the Gang is an R&B singing group from the 80s. I don't know. I'm sorry, I messed it up. I know some people get offended about their music. So who are the people that was like a hip, a hop, A hippity hippity hip hip. Y'all know the song I'm talking about. Y'all gotta let me know in the comments. All right, y'all. So last time I checked, the Senate race was happening down in Georgia. I don't think, well, last time I checked before I started my live, there were like no results as of now. I'm thinking they're not going to have the final counts until possibly tomorrow. And so people are basically trying to see what's going to go on with the Senate. And we should know more information about that coming up. You're also going to have people, the Sugar Hill Gang. Thank y'all. Rapper's Delight is the name of the song. I totally screwed that up. I mean, to be fair, to give me a little credit, Kool in the Gang and Sugar Hill in the Gang, you know, you could kind of see how I could get them mixed up there. But anyway, so you're gonna have people already down in DC, starting today and on tomorrow. You also have this Georgia vote, so there's gonna be a lot happening in the next 2 days. Apparently, they may be, it looks like Trump tweeted something today, possibly putting a little heat on, oh my God, I can't even think, Pence, VP Pence, as, you know, we go into more talks about like electoral fraud and things like this. So I'm thinking that the main thing they're pushing right now is possibly the fact that states with Republican majorities may refuse to certify what they see as like illegitimate electoral college voters, okay, and certifying their voters and basically allowing Trump to gain new electors. Now, as far as I've seen, only one person from the Senate has even mentioned. O'Shea Lennox is still going in on me. He's like, no, Rhonda, those are two like totally different eras. Okay, so apparently, like, Sugar Hill Gang came way before Kool in the Gang. I think that's the way that worked. So let me get that straight because people get serious about their music, okay? I can imagine. But so you have some people that are going to be going down to DC. Get ready to see some reports of counter protesters, all of these things. I don't know quite yet if the media is going to try to completely just ignore this and ignore that tons of people are going to be there, whether you agree with it or not. I think to ignore a huge part of what's going on is a disservice to the American people. I just don't see how you could try to not report or undermine or underreport or not even talk about things that are going on with the political process. That just doesn't make sense to me at all. So if you didn't know, that's going to be happening. Now, like I said, based on how I look, everything that I've looked at, I've told y'all even early on, these numbers and the math, they're bringing a lot of different scholars in. Different scholars are saying, oh, no, this is the only way you could do this, through the Supreme Court. Oh, no, it has to be through the VP. Oh, no, it has to be through your Congress, the electors. So you have a lot of people saying different things. But I would say for this to work out, like a lot of people that are going to be in DC, a lot of Trump supporters are saying, this will basically have to end almost like a freaking Hollywood movie. Um, and I just don't see the path for that happening. What I will say though, and I'm going to talk about this tonight going into the fraud squad, which was recently trending, is that whether people know it or not, a lot of people do see how the election system is being undermined, okay? And we can go up from talking about like the national conventions, the voting in primaries, the voting machines, like all type of stuff. Um, and I think a lot of people are seeing this. I think a lot of people are getting fed up. I think a lot of people are getting pissed off. And you're not going to just see this from Trump supporters and what is just recently happening just with the voting machines and all of these different things, but also with people seeing that these politicians, they're propping them up to do one thing and they're doing another. And so combining this with COVID, I think there could really be a potential for something great here, even more so because there is a huge disconnect, and this is actually the perfect time if people become aware and stand up for their freaking selves. Like I talked about early on, there's way more small business owners than these freaking politicians that think they can tell you to not open your business, not feed your family, and then dangle this $600 over you. And so I think we're really coming to a boiling point, and people that may not necessarily politically agree or agree across all aspects, I believe could come together against the establishment. And a lot of stuff we see happening right now with the politicians and the corporations. So let me talk a little bit about this for some of you. For some of you that may not know. So basically the fraud squad was trending on Twitter on Sunday night, and the fraud squad was basically a play on a squad talking about how, you know, you have progressives who are pushing force the vote. Force the vote, meaning Nancy Pelosi, we are not going to vote for you until you bring Medicare for all to the floor. Now, you have people like the AOCs, the squad, AOCs, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, and others, right? But those are kind of the main, most popular ones. You have them running on these certain platforms, and then they come in and get swallowed up by the mob, the corruption, and all of these other things. You literally had AOC just a couple of months ago. And AOC is one of the people, so this is a little bit off on a tangent, but her personality, in a lot of ways, she comes off acting as herself, personable, likable. I could see why people would like AOC. But you have people like this campaigning on something, and then they go in and do something totally different. Just months ago, you had AOC saying people like, she specifically said, she tweeted, Nancy Pelosi and these people shouldn't continue to be able to have these seats if they're not going to bring to the floor the things people want, right? And you have people like AOC and the squad running on progressives' ideas. And you have all these people, including the Bernie supporters, that jump behind them to, believe in these ideas. And then you see that once they get in, they vote for the same people that they campaign like they're so different from. And I've really been trying to, you know, explain this in various ways for the longest time. But in a lot of ways, it's really the establishment against the people. It's really big war against the people, big pharma against the people, big prison industrial complex against the people. And these people get into these positions, and I've talked about this in regards to Republicans who are supposed to be the party of the Constitution, and a lot of them who get in these positions and they don't hold up to the things that they act or pretend like they're for. And you have the same thing for Democrats. And I've often also talked about, in a lot of ways, I think the progressive movement has been control opposition. Look at what happened with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders got cheated twice, and he bows out. No kind of fight. And at some point, I have to ask, if you really believe in these ideas, for real, regardless of where you personally fall on the political spectrum, shouldn't you be standing up for the things you believe in? And when are we going to stop making excuses for politicians? Oh, well, they called it out. Oh, well, they tweeted about it. Oh, well, they said this. Who gives a crap? Who gives a crap? Just like AOC, when she first said it, I'm like, yes. She was like, this stimulus bill attached to the COVID relief, it's like 5,000 freaking pages. It's no way we can read this. We don't know what's going on. How can we tell our constituents what's going on? This is not fair to us, nor especially y'all. She tweets this and then goes on to vote for it just like everybody else. Months ago, says Nancy Pelosi Nancy Pelosi shouldn't be able to continue in this position, but goes to vote for her and not force the vote like some of her constituents, progressive voters, were asking for. Make Nancy Pelosi call this Medicare for All vote to the floor, or we're not going to vote for her. And so, once again, I have to ask people, you can pretend like your political leaning is so different, but when the people you're sending to DC are not actually fulfilling and representing those ideas indeed as it's written on paper, something I always talk about, what's inked on paper, what they say has no value other than cool points. Yay, she got them. She said that, period. So I'm under the belief if something big doesn't happen in 2021, I don't know. Maybe I won't say that. Maybe it's a little too pessimistic, and maybe I shouldn't be like that. But if people cannot see that the government continues to choose the corporation over the people, over the voters, many, probably most of the politicians are corrupt, cowering for money, not upholding the ideas that they're saying they're going to DC to do. And then to want to offer these people like more power. I don't understand that. I don't get that. I don't agree with that. But I just wonder, what is it going to take for people to actually see, be privy, and also talk about these things. I have to admit, I really like the idea of force the vote, this hashtag and this movement that was started by Jimmy Dore, who is a commentator that started on the Young Turks and then moved on to doing his own thing after he wasn't feeling the whole Russia gate. He's like, bruh, it's a lie. Like, it's not true. The Young Turks is freaking becoming MSNBC Junior. Like, I'm out. And so he was a YouTube commentator that kind of pushed this thing. It caught on with a lot of other people. Like, I think Brianna Joy, I think is her name, one of Bernie Sanders' previous staff members or something like that. But why I specifically like this is because I hope it's opening up a lot of people, particularly progressives' eyes to how like you've been lied to, or you've been lied to also. And you're basically being used for the same Democrat establishment. Like, it's not really different. They keep trying to draw these lines of it's so different, and it's not. And I believe, from what I could tell, particularly with what we keep seeing from the squad, is that they're being used, even with Bernie, to siphon off young, enthusiastic energy and push it into the Democratic establishment agenda. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened with Bernie. Young people, dissenting voices, third party, anybody independent, anybody that doesn't like the establishment is being siphoned right back into the things that they think they aren't supporting, which is big pharma, big war, big prison industrial complex. And let's just be honest, when we're talking about a lot of things, in a lot of ways, the Democratic Party, less freedom in regards to, even if we're looking at the things like the COVID lockdowns and how it's affecting small business owners. Now, what smart people would do is use a lot of this dissenting energy to push better ideas. People already don't like the establishment, right? So if you can present things and present them in a way that people feel like will be helpful, beneficial, tangible to their life, this is the perfect time to capture that energy. And so, as far as this huge divide that we're seeing in a country right now, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that you have a lot of people that are yearning for something. They don't feel like they have a political home. They just don't. Whether you're talking about Democrats or Republicans, okay? I think I saw you have the thing that's happening in DC on tomorrow. And then I also saw, was it Force the Vote rallies or something going on? But one thing that I can say that Democrats have learned to do very well is to hijack conversations and change the direction of them. And so imagine people being able to do that in a very beneficial way that doesn't limit people's freedoms and actually um upholds the Constitution and does it equally. So, I have to admit, yeah, I was very happy to see the fraud squad, very happy to see forced to vote. Hopefully, people are waking up. Hopefully, people see that they are being lied to and they're being pushed certain ideas that are very idealistic. They're being pushed certain ideas by some of the same people that just are feeding into the same machine that they say any other day that they hate. I just don't know. I don't know how to explain that any differently. But this is what happens when you have corporations and also foreign interests that have such a heavy hand in our freaking political system. And 2020 showed us that more than any other year. You can look at the stimulus packages and see that. And some of us, we were here trying to warn people early on, even that whole idea of just stay inside. We're in this together. That's a very progressive thing to say. Very progressive thing to say. Very feeling, very communal. Oh, we'll do this together. It's the same thing. And they're siphoning off your emotions for their own twisted freaking agenda, which was what? All of these resources being sucked into corporations in foreign countries. So I think what's happening, hopefully, here is maybe people are starting to see a little bit. This is my, hopeful, like you're almost there. Like once you start getting mad, you start being bothered, you start paying attention, you start saying, why is this politician not saying what they're doing? In my head, I'm thinking, keep going. Like, keep reading, keep paying attention to what these politicians are doing. Now see what politicians are actually supposed to do, inbounds for what politicians are supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do, the documents that they are supposed to uphold and the things they're not supposed to uphold. It's a thirst for something and knowledge. And I feel like if people take advantage, and I don't mean it in like the worst way, but I think y'all know what I mean. But if you see that potential to change the trajectory of these discussions, it's like, you see how they lied there? You see how they still favoring the corporations? You see how the stars that they try to prop up to you and tell you are so progressive, are really no different? Do you think these are the people that we should continue to get more power and be able to make these very personal decisions when we know they have corporate interests? They just showed you they also, while trying to portray themselves as some moral authority, are moving in the same ways they say they're in opposition to, are no longer talk about ending long-standing war. Like, I see a little peak in interest there. You're almost there. Like, keep going. So it's a lot of, I just think it's a lot of untapped potential. I think specifically if these lockdowns don't kind of ease up a little bit, people can only go for so long before they start getting hungry and angry. And one thing I've always tried to tell people, like, of course, when I'm saying social justice, I'm kind of saying this in a sarcastic way, but like social justice, like, it's cute, it's cool, I guess, to do in a moment, but when your light's not on, when you hungry, when they're dangling $600 over your head, people are gonna move where the money moves. You can literally look. You can look. U-Haul just came out with a list today of some of the biggest moves this year, the places people were moving to and moving from. And if you go look at that list, you can see that a lot of these bigger cities, the ones with the stricter lockdowns, the ones with high poverty, high homelessness, that actually, when you look at some of the policies like New York, California, Illinois, right? Super tough gun control, lax immigration policy, all of these other things that people think they won't, but the number's not showing it. It's not, somebody's lying. So at the end of the day, people have to remember that when people are deciding where to move, the biggest factor is usually a job, income. Where can I start a business? Where can I find the best job for my fields? And if we're getting to a point where people are not focusing on that and trying to ignore it, and trying to act like that's not one of the biggest motivators for where we live, it just doesn't make sense. And we're going to see that going even more into 2021, because as these food lines start to get longer and people's stomachs start to get emptier, people are going to start getting more upset. And you're going to see, that's when you start going down to the bones of what's really real, what really matters, and what really doesn't. And I kind of said that coming in about 2020, kind of providing clarity about what's actually essential and the things that are not. And some of these things have just been very frivolous, maybe nice to get on social media and talk about, but at the end of the day, they don't add to your home life, your career life, your income, or any of these other things. So, in some regards, I do think that there needs to be some type of pushback with governors, with what we've seen with people going too far in some of these overreaching policies. But the sad part about that is when you give pushback, you don't know how far that may go. So when enough people get tired of it, they'll get tired of it. And I think that's a main reason why our mainstream media in America does not show us a lot of the uh, protests that have been happening in opposition to the lockdowns in other places. They're allowing a lot of people to be very content with what's happening right now. And I think they don't want people to get any ideas. But don't be fooled. There are a lot of other countries that where people are actually coming together to protest these lockdowns. You have a lot of people saying, "I'd rather experience COVID than starve to death and have no money, not be able to feed my own family." Juju said, "How do you start a third party in a two-party system? I like ranked choice voting, but I'm not sure if we could get it passed after seeing this last election." Um, so I understand. I get what you're saying about the third party thing. I think the biggest thing standing in the way of a third party, because one thing people will have to remember, like Trump or don't like Trump, the reason why a lot of people did like him is because he wasn't directly from the establishment. And that's why you have a lot of people like some of those other Democratic fresh face candidates that we were seeing as well. But I think the main thing that happens, the main battle is the media. Believe it or not, I think the main battle is the media. The media constantly, the media combined with the corporations, combined with padding the pockets of the politicians, get to decide what we see and don't see. And they create these narratives that, you have to do this because this is the only choice, because these are the only two choices that we're showing you. Um, and so I think the main thing standing in the way of a third party is media. And the unfortunate part about that is they also have that includes social media. And that was why during this last 4 years, one of the main things I was promoting, I'm like, I want to see Trump deal more directly in regards to social media, censorship, freedom of speech. And y'all know I've done content on that going forward because Joe Biden's not going to do it. Like, let's be real. It's not going to happen, especially if it's in their favor, which it is going to be when this is a person aligned to Bill Gates, wanting to do stricter lockdowns highly in support of people being vaccinated. Why would you allow people to say whatever they want to say? So that is going to get worse. That's about to get worse. So just people need to go ahead and accept that now. But as far as third party, I think the biggest thing standing in the way is social media, because they almost create what we talk about and don't talk about. Thank you to Ryder Walker. She said, "Keep up the good work, Rhonda." Thank you. But I forgot who that was that first came in saying like 2020 is going to be an interesting year. I'm curious. I'm curious to see how it plays out. Thank you to Ryder Walker. Thank you for the super chat and the sticker. TE said Malcolm X said the media was more powerful than the U.S. military. Like, until we beat the propaganda, There is no real win. That's where the culture war is. They create and push all of the narratives. I just saw something the other day. It was like a study came out suggesting that trans women, even after uh, transitioning and taking hormones a year or two, they still have competitive edge over women, natural born women. I'm like thinking like you had to do a specific study just to re-verify that. But who all along has been even pushing the idea otherwise? So whether we're talking about culture, politics, all of it, like the first war is a propaganda, and the propaganda is highly tied into the corporations, whether people believe it or not, because it's favoring them in some type of way, right? And so one example of that would be push vaccines, push fear, because this pass the pocket of big pharma. So it's a propaganda fight, it's an establishment fight, and the establishment crosses political parties. And I hope people really, really see that now by what's going on, even in regards to the election fraud that's being talked about. Will things get better? Maybe, but it's gonna take some people really talking about and standing up for what's right. Also, as a matter of fact, while we're talking about this, if any of you are or know somebody that's a small business owner that has refused to follow lockdown orders, I would be very interested in sharing their stories. I know on some level it's probably happening out there. The main story that I heard of particularly was a gym owner in New York who's racked up like hundreds and thousands of fines. One great thing about social media is we can tell and share our own stories, and then we also have a chance to support you know, people who are basically being crushed by some of the things that are going on right now. But if you are one of those people that are know one of those people that has refused the lockdowns because you need to keep your business open to feed your family, okay? I'm in Mississippi, and so we've been open. I don't know how long, and I just find it odd that you have some cities who are just still going in and out of this, knowing that as time goes on a lot of people, that spell is wearing off, and people are coming back to reality that they need money, they need jobs. You can't hide in your closet all your life trying to hide from a virus, especially not young, healthy people. It's just not logical. It's just not a logical perspective. We're going on a year here. And so anyway, if you are that person or know of that person, I would like to support them and make sure their story gets out. I would love to interview them. So DM me on Twitter, Instagram, RhondaMary on Instagram. I am RhondaMary on Twitter. RhondaMaryVideos at gmail.com. But all right, y'all. So we'll see what happens. I gotta admit, it is kind of like reading a good book, like, or like watching the Game of Thrones or something, and you just want to know like what the heck is gonna happen next. And so that's kind of where I'm at with it. But we'll see what happens. But anyway, all right, y'all. So thank y'all for rocking with me on Tuesdays. Thank y'all to everyone that has super chatted. Thank you to my patrons. A special thank you to my VIP patrons, Michael, Ray, and Daniel. If you would like to become a member of my Patreon and support my content, their link is below. My brother-in-law just recently received a positive test for COVID. This was probably right after Christmas. And so he experienced some loss of taste and loss of smell. Now he's been with my sister and my niece. My niece is 7 months. And my sister. Neither of them have symptoms, right? No symptoms. But they're like, okay, he got it. Let us just go. I'm like, to get tested. I'm like, why not? Why would you do, why go get tested? You have no symptoms and you are going to quarantine with him either way. Even if the test came back negative or positive, you were going to still quarantine with him. So I don't understand how that made sense. But anyway, so my sister and my niece went to get tested. Of course, their test came back positive, right? Right, because you go in there and be like, have you been around anybody that have COVID? You check, yes. Oh, okay, you got COVID. Anyway, but so I'm gonna call him and check on him, and I'm gonna be like, I talked to him a couple of days ago, and he's good. It's just loss of taste and smell. But I'm gonna ask him after his symptoms subside and all of this. Now, based on the last 14 days, what you actually experienced, 80% of people experience those mild symptoms. This is the math. I've done this, broken it down, and shown it on the CDC website before for maybe people that may be new watchers. What you're experiencing are the symptoms that 80% of people have experienced, the lesser of the symptoms. Out of the other 10 to 20% that have some of the, I think 20% have bad symptoms, and then maybe 10% actually have to be maybe hospitalized, and less than 1%, last time I checked, it was deadly, right? So I'm just going to ask him after and be like, now, based on those symptoms, what if somebody came to you before the symptoms and was like, all right, you're probably going to get this thing. And because you're going to get this thing, we need to close down your job. Oh, I know you have a 7-month baby, but don't worry about that. We'll take care of it. Maybe 2 weeks, maybe a year. I mean, who knows? But hey, just sit at the house, chill. You'll be good. We'll send you at least $600. We'll do a little something for you. And ask him, based on what he's experienced, do you think that was sufficient? Based on what you experienced, do you think that your livelihood should have been cut off? And now that you know that, what do you think about other people that are having to do that are being told their businesses can't open, they can't work out, they can't go to school, they can't do this and they can't do that, even after being told, oh, well, the social distancing worked, the mask works. And it's funny because when my brother-in-law first called me and told me about it, he just kept saying, I wore my mask. I wear my mask. I wear my mask. And I'm like, really? Yeah, okay. Which he did. But I'm just thinking by now people know that that's not what, the things that we're wearing. I wear a bandana. And when I'm walking through places, I could still smell scents and like people's like cologne and stuff. So just imagine, we're dealing with supposedly the most deadly virus here. So, but I'll let y'all know how that conversation goes. I think it's going to be interesting. But anyway, all right, y'all. So let me get out of here. We'll be talking soon. I will be making more content. Glenn said, Third Eye Philosophy said, I've been here since the beginning, and I know you had it in you. Your voice is powerful, and I love seeing your go as Black conservatives support you. Thank you, Third Eye Philosophy. Glenn George said, hi, Rhonda, question for you. Is there a way to deny taking a COVID test legally to travel? And is there a way to get out of the vaccine? So, as far as I know right now, there is no you do not need a COVID test to travel within the United States. As far as I know, I am not super familiar about I just lost my thought. I'm not super familiar about flights going outside of the United States, but I've been traveling during the entire pandemic. I've had no problems. The most you have to do is wear like a mask on the plane, but they don't test you for COVID at the airports. They don't even check your temperature, right? And so if you're crossing borders or something, I'm not exactly sure the details of that. I also know that you do have some people mentioning in the future about documents to travel abroad, but as of now, no, there is nothing in place. If people try to put it in place, I personally believe that it's going to be worked up to the Supreme Court. I don't think hopefully people are going to make it that easy for that to happen. Also, getting out of the vaccine, if your job requires it or your child's school, most time the only way is a religious exemption. And some people, some places do not allow religious exemptions. Now, when I recently had the nurse on that talked about COVID, this was a couple of months ago from California. She talked about how she doesn't really believe in vaccinations, how she doesn't plan on taking a COVID vaccination. And she said that in her hospital, it's more of a coercion thing. Like they try to make you feel like you have to have vaccinations, but it's not really true. And so what I would suggest is, even with these schools, I think there are loopholes. Because, like, for example, with me, like most of the people that I met that are typically more against, well, I would say that haven't been vaccinated that I know of, most of those people are like middle class white people. I know a couple of people that I kind of grew up with recently. I grew up with that are now more like not vaccinating their young children. And so what I've been doing, I've been trying to like make connections and network with people. I'm sorry, I'm still babysitting. I'm about to go in a second. But I've been basically what's really good is networking with people, getting into different groups and talking about these things and how to get around these things for like different jobs and different schools and different areas. Some of the things you can say, sometimes they have documents that of things you can say to present to like your employer and stuff like that, or maybe religious exemptions and all this other stuff. So that's probably the best advice that I could give. But I think going forward, everything is going to kind of be like a case by case, state by state, corporation by corporation type thing. Because I think even Ticketmaster came out with something talking about, we might make you show your vaccination or negative test to come to our concerts. Good thing I ain't been to a concert in years. But anyway, all right, y'all. So Have a good night. We'll talk soon. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe. Give me a thumbs up to help this video get out. And y'all have a good night. Bye.